Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, the Steelers are 6-0 and the only undefeated team left in the NFL. Coach Tomlin and Bob Pompeani recap the nail-biting win in Tennessee and preview tomorrow's five-star matchup with the 5-1 Baltimore Ravens. Plus, Merril Hoge breaks down what makes Lamar Jackson so dangerous, and I go one-on-one with someone who will have to stop Jackson and company tomorrow. Inside linebacker Vince Williams tells me about this ferocious Steelers defense. The Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit and sacked. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the Mike Tomlin Show presented by 84 Lumber. I'm Missi Matthews. The Steelers are about to play in their third straight five-star matchup tomorrow, to borrow a phrase from Coach Tomlin. But we have to start talking about the win over the Tennessee Titans that came down to a missed field goal. And to say it was physical would be an understatement. Let's say good evening to Bob Pompeani, who's with Coach Tomlin, to talk about how the Steelers got to 6-0. Bob?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. The only undefeated team in the NFL is the Pittsburgh Steelers, following a very impressive win at Tennessee. Coach Tomlin, let's talk a little bit about that game, specifically the first drive, how it came to be. You guys typically like to defer. You wanted the ball, and you made a statement, I thought. How important was that drive in this game?
It was important for us. You know, that was a box that we needed to check to be able to go down the field fluidly with our script and have success. We hadn't done that this year. But it was also important because of the way Tennessee Titans like to play football. They like to have command of the game, if you will, and so we wanted to deny them the ball and hopefully get out in front and make them play from a position that they weren't comfortable in.
Well, they certainly weren't comfortable with third down. You guys took it to them. I think the first half was 8 for 9. What was the secret on third down, especially in that first drive where you guys went 3 for 3?
You know, we were just letting coverage dictate to us where the ball goes. You know, we got great diversity and depth in our receiving core, not only within the group of wide receivers, but the tight end group and the running back group. They're all just becoming really reliable and viable options for Ben, and that's what we seek. We seek balance in that area so that we can let oftentimes our opponent determine who the quote-unquote hot hand is, and as long as we're taking what they're giving us, man, we got a chance to have success.
Chase Claypool, we talked about him. It seems week to week we talk about different wide receivers who make plays and help you. It was James Washington also a week ago. And then in this game, I don't know if they singled out on Claypool or tried to take him away, but Deontay Johnson was given a lot of space off the ball, and he was targeted a lot, so was Juju Smith-Schuster. Was that part of the plan going in?
It was, but, you know, largely, again, because of what was provided to us, particularly some of the things that were going on inside in the interior part of the field on possession downs, a space that Juju works well. It was a big component of play for us.
All right, the one thing that happened in this game that you rarely see is when you go -3 in the takeaway turnover, the differential there, you normally don't win football games, but in those 3 turnovers, they only scored 3 points off of them. Kind of rare to see, and what was the key to surviving that?
You know, it's exactly what you mentioned. The 3 points produced minimized the 3 turnovers. One coming at the very end of the half really is of no consequence. It's on the stat sheet, but it had no bearing on the game. Obviously, the other 2 were a significant component of the second half and how it unfolded. Sometimes it's just the bounce or the tip of the ball, if you will, and other times it's quality plays by them. But regardless of that, we got to do a better job of taking care of the ball, particularly in those significant moments, or we're going to be in games like we were in last weekend.
It's kind of interesting to see how things work in football. When you have a player make a big play, around here especially, man, those big plays last forever. People talk about them. And now you see nicknames like Night Train Spelaine. I just want to get your thoughts about Robert Spelaine and that hit. And boy, did he go right up, as you like to say, put his head in the fan. That's exactly what he did.
You know, he's not shy about contact and about competition. But I don't think that any of his teammates or any of us that are around the football team are surprised by his play thus far. He's a more than capable guy who simply was, you know, working while he waited for his opportunity. We often say one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. What is a misfortune for Devin Bush is an opportunity for Spelaine, and he's more than ready. we're all excited to watch him meet it and continue on this journey with him.
What was the feeling on the sideline among coaches and players when that hit was made? Because it was significant at the time, and if they didn't end up getting a penalty and scoring, I think people would have talked about that play for a long time.
You know, it happened so quick. I don't know if any of us on the sideline immediately knew who it was that hit him. It was so fast and so abrupt, and it was in close quarters from our perspective. It wasn't a great deal of certainty who did it. But when we quickly found out it was Robert, none of us were surprised.
Overall, how did he do, and how did the guys in there do in pass coverage situations?
The guys more than met the challenge in terms of what was expected of them. Again, when you lose somebody like Devin Bush, oftentimes it's a multiple man job, and it was on Sunday, and it probably will continue to be, although we're still sorting out some details in terms of how we divide the labor up. Spelaine did a nice job on some rundown things. Really like the work of Ulysses Gilbert on the third down work, and so we'll just continue to utilize all our options. Devin Bush was a uniquely talented football player, a guy that was good both versus the run and the pass and in coverage and in blitz, and so it's reasonable for us to call on multiple people in an effort to meet the standard of his production.
One other big moment before we turn it back over to Missi eventually. I want to get into the Ray McLeod thing, because you took a timeout, and I thought it was a really good use of a timeout that set up what was a 57-yard return and resulted in points. How big was that play? And this kid continues to make good opportunities, whenever he gets a chance.
You know, he's been electrifying with the ball in his hands, but, you know, it's nothing that we hadn't seen in practice. We were simulating preseason football, if you will, during the training camp process. He ran a kickoff back in a scrimmage-like setting, and that captured our attention, and it has just continued from there. He wants to be a reason why we're successful. He wants to be a part of it. He's continuing to grow as an offensive football player, and we're finding ways to infuse him in that element of play as well. He's just been a pleasant young man to work with, one that comes to work every day bright-eyed and looking to get better.
Well, he certainly had an impact in that game as well. All right, Coach, thanks very much for that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Ravens and the Steelers, one of the most bitter and I think best rivalries in all of sports. We'll get into that a little later in the program. Right now, let's send it back over to Missi Matthews.
All right, thanks, Bob, and we will give you an inside look in that win in Nashville coming up next in our Sights and Sounds. Plus, I go one-on-one later in the show with Vince Williams to find out what makes the Steelers defense tick. The Mike Tomlin Show will be right back. Welcome back to the Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber. Here's some of the best sights and sounds from the Steelers' 27-24 win over the Titans.
We're humbled and excited to be in these five-star matchups. We'll show that appreciation by how we prepare and ultimately by how we play as we move into the weekend. I'll open it up for questions.
What does it mean when Mike Tomlin labels a game as a five-star matchup?
Five-star matchup. Somebody leaving here with a loss. Not going to be us.
On the surface, it could be a meeting of two teams trying to remain unbeaten. But looking closer, it's more than just that. It's one of the league's most potent offenses against one of its stingiest defenses. The league's leading rusher against the AFC's toughest run defense. And last year's comeback player of the year, dueling against a fellow quarterback on a comeback tour of his own. All of that wrapped up into a rebirth of a classic AFC Central rivalry seems to warrant the title of a five-star matchup. Two heavyweights slugging it out to walk away with the distinction of being 6-0. Pittsburgh's offense opened the game by making a statement.
Ben gets the snap. Fires a pass down the middle. Juju complete.
Roethlisberger floats it, and he's got a first down and more. Walking the tightrope, it's Deontay Johnson.
Here is a little jet sweep to the left, and that is Ray McLeod getting the first down and more.
The Steelers were matriculating the ball down the field.
Now here's a quick in cut, and a great job by Deontay Johnson, and has enough for the first down.
Eating up over 9 minutes of clock.
And he just shovels the ball, and he gets it, does he? Eric Ebron down to the 10-yard line. Turning a sow's ear into a silk purse was Ben Roethlisberger doing the backhanded flip.
And converting 4 third downs en route to the first points of the game.
Touchdown! down over the middle. Deontay Johnson, a laser into traffic from Ben to Deontay.
That window was so small, I don't think you could have stuffed a breadbasket in there, for crying out loud.
Inside linebacker Vince Williams is no stranger to the Steelers lineup during his 8 years here in Pittsburgh, but this season he has been a beast. Him and TJ Watt lead the National Football League in tackles for loss with 12. Vince leads the Steelers with 32 tackles, and he also has 3 sacks. This week I had a chance to go one-on-one with him to talk about Lamar Jackson and much more.
I think the margin of error in this game, or games like this, is very, very low. You can't go out there, you can't have a lot of mistakes, you can't have a lot of miscommunications, because a guy like Lamar Jackson will hurt you. And when he hurts you, it's going for 60 or 80 or 40 or something like that. So you just got to be on your details.
He won the league MVP, but his worst game last season was the only game you guys faced him here at Heinz Field. 5 sacks, 3 interceptions. What can you take away from that game that you could potentially use going into Sunday?
We lost that game, and now we want to win. So we got to be better than we were that week.
What's another part of their offense? Is it Mark Andrews, or who is another person? Obviously, we know that Lamar is a dual threat. That is something you guys really have to key in on this week.
That's the thing about it, man. You know, these guys have a great deal of continuity. A lot of the people that they have over there, they have employed have been the same guys we've seen for the last 2 or 3 years. So it's not so much any new additions or things that it's not so much new additions or things that they're doing differently. It's that they're staying consistent and they're doing the things that they always done extremely well.
Still to come on the Mike Tomlin Show, Bob Pompeani and Coach Tomlin talk some AFC North football and even some Halloween candy. We'll be right back after the break.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 Lumber material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
Welcome back to the Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber. The Steelers, of course, are the lone team in the NFL who are undefeated at this point, but there are 5 teams that have just 1 loss on their record. The Steelers will be facing one of them tomorrow in the Baltimore Ravens. So let's go back to Bob and Coach for more on AFC North football and this rivalry. Guys?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Well, this now paves the way for the Steelers and the Ravens, 6-0 versus 5-1. AFC North football with an exclamation point at the end of it. Coach, this has been one of the best rivalries, I think, in all of sports. The moments are there. Ryan Clark with a big hit in a game there. We also saw, of course, Ray Lewis break Rashard Mendenhall's shoulder. There have been big moments like Ben Roethlisberger playing with a bloody nose on a hit by Haloti Ngata, Troy Polamalu with the interception and return. Is this the best rivalry you've ever been a part of, and do you think it's the best in the NFL?
It is, and it's because of the moments that you mentioned and many more. How about the Santonio touchdown late in the game that was controversial, whether or not it crossed the end zone? Or how about Antonio Brown reaching and stretching the ball out on, I think, Christmas Day? It's steeped in interesting plays and significant plays, and it's because the two teams are consistently competitive, and it's hot in the kitchen in the AFC North, and we're excited about being back in the kitchen this week.
Let me ask you about the kitchen, which was hot last week. It's going to be hotter this week. You guys have to play back-to-back physical games. It's Tennessee 1 week, Baltimore the next. They get a bye week when it was supposed to be your bye week. How much does a bye week help from preparation, from just healing, and also back-to-back physical games like that? Good or bad to have those on the schedule?
I can't speak to the bye week for them in terms of whether or not it's been useful or even how they utilized it, because different people do business different ways. But it'd be difficult for us to care less how they spent their bye week. We're just concerned about the dominoes that are in front of us, and they're the next one, and so they have our attention. We like being in these 5-star matchups, man. It feels like we're in the game of the week for the 3rd week in a row, but we believe that challenges us in the right ways and really acts as a catalyst for our growth and development as a team and as individuals within the team. We just got to continue to find ways to win through that growth process. And so, we're working with a great deal of urgency as we prepare. We respect the Ravens, man. We respect the work that needs to happen in their venue. We're just excited about this week's challenge.
Well, the challenge starts with Lamar Jackson. You faced him only once last year. In the second game, he did not play. But in that game here in Pittsburgh, it resulted in an overtime loss. However, you guys did a very good job of containing him, I thought, with 5 sacks, 3 interceptions. What was the key on that day, and what do you know about that experience, how it could help you with this week?
You know, we put together a solid plan, and the execution of that plan was solid, and so we were able to minimize him in some ways that day and put us in position to win. But because we were able to do it that way, it doesn't act as a precursor to this Sunday. We have to go through a process, man. The variables change a little bit from year to year. They got some new components and weapons at his disposal. He's developed and grown some in some areas, and so, man, we got to put together a good plan and respect that he's capable of ringing up the scoreboard and getting yards by the chunk every time the ball is snapped in a variety of ways. And so we all have to be on our P's and Q's.
Their run game, which was really good last year, is not as productive this year. At least it hasn't been to this point. I know Mark Ingram has been injured there. You guys have been very good at stopping the run just about every week, and you did it again last week with Derrick Henry, containing him. What is the key to doing it for this team, and what do they do well in the run game that has you on alert?
The fact that Lamar Jackson is a critical component of it, by design and by scramble. And so it really stresses you. You know, he's got 50 carries on the season. The way they distribute their carries, it doesn't allow you to zero in on one element of their run game. In week 1, we were able to focus almost exclusively on Barkley. Last week, we were able to almost focus exclusively on Henry. When you play with this group, not only you have to focus on the running back, but also the quarterback. And within the running back group, there's great diversity. I mean, they utilize 3 guys at the running back position between Gus Edwards and Ingram and the rookie, man. They really do a good job of keeping you off balance and making you defend a lot of people in that space.
Defensively, they acquired Yannick Ngakoue, and he's a guy who's certainly had a history of making some plays against the Steelers, already to a good defense. How do you attack that defense? Do you expect pressure a lot from them or what?
Pressure is how they live. You know, that's what they do. Probably more than anybody in football, and that's including us, and we got respect for that. We got to do a good job in blitz pickup. We got to do a good job of identification of people that are coming, man. They bring their safeties quite a bit. I can't say enough about this young safety tandem, 32 and 36 they got back there. Really are playing good physical football, are doing good in the run and in the blitz game. It's just going to be a rough and tumble atmosphere, man. It's a roll your sleeves up type of a game, and we're not hiding from that reality. As a matter of fact, we embrace it and we're preparing for it.
Well, it should be an outstanding game. We'll have it for you on KDKA this Sunday at 1 o'clock. Lots to look in advance of that game and talk about. It should be, as Mike Tomlin says, a 5-star matchup. How about Halloween? We'll get into that. It is Halloween week. How does Mike Tomlin spend Halloween week? We'll talk about that a little later in the program. Right now, back to Missi Matthews.
Okay, guys, thanks so much. Can't wait for that. I do not think, though, we can talk enough about the reigning league MVP, Lamar Jackson. So for that, here is Merril Hoge's playbook.
Raven offense versus Steeler defense. And we're going to focus on Lamar Jackson when he runs the football with design-called runs, how you must defend him. Last year in the first matchup, the Steeler defense was terrific. And here's what they did very well. They didn't overreact. They saw things before they reacted, therefore they were in excellent position most all the time. And they forced Lamar Jackson to move laterally initially versus letting him go vertically. So what we're going to do is look at a defense that didn't play Lamar Jackson correctly like that and what can happen, and then how the Steelers handled him last year.
Okay, let's look at this play. You must see things before you react. Watch the action of Lamar Jackson here as he goes to hand it off. Now, at this point, he's pulled the ball, but look at 49. He's already committing to the sweep action, and 47 is going to overreact to the counter action. When you do those things and you get ahead of yourself, this is the result. Big play and a touchdown. Okay, let's take a look at this play. Eventually, the focus is going to come to number 34, Edmonds, on the outside. But let's first focus on the initial box players. Bud Dupree does a great job of closing this down. Everybody inside is where they need to be. So if this is handed off, taken care of. Now back to Edmonds. Watch what he's doing. He's making sure of the handoff. Why? Because if Lamar Jackson boots out of here, that's his responsibility. Well, that's exactly what happens. Now, here's what's great. Lamar Jackson wants to go vertical, but look at the pursuit. Look at what Edmonds has done, and this is what they force. They force him to go laterally. If you force him to go laterally, help can come.
All right, time for one more quick break. When we return, Coach Tomlin and Bob Pompeani talk Halloween candy. Don't go anywhere.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Welcome back, everyone, and happy Halloween. Hopefully for the Steelers tomorrow in Baltimore. It's all treats and no tricks. Let's check in one final time with Bob and Coach to talk a little Halloween. Guys?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's Halloween week. You're going to be busy, I know, Coach, so maybe this week is different than in past. But growing up, did you have a favorite costume, a go-to thing that you got into? Were you into Halloween as a holiday? And when you pass out candy, you give the big bars, the mini bars, or maybe I suspect that Kia does all of that. You're not even around.
I was always into being, horror movie predators. Jason, I've been multiple times. Freddy from Friday the 13th. I always loved being those guys.
As far as the candy distribution, do you do it or does your wife?
I stay out of the way. I think my daughter is actually in charge of that. She likes to squirrel as much candy for herself for later as possible, so she's in charge of handing it out.
All right, Halloween, and we got a big game for you coming up on Sunday, 1 p.m. Steelers Ravens. Coach, thanks very much for your time. Good luck as you try to get to 7-0. And that's going to do it for our program tonight. Join us tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. for our pregame show. Afterwards, we have coverage once again, postgame. It's a big weekend of football. Steelers and Ravens. It doesn't get any better than that. And that's going to do it for the program. For Missi Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next Saturday night right here on KDKA.